This is the Montana Outdoor Podcast, brought to you in part by Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer in Missoula, home of Boss Snowplows, CM Truck Beds, and Diamond Sea Trailers. Just go to rmtte.com for more information. And by Superior Hardwoods of Montana, home of the largest selection of in-stock high-end wood products and flooring in the western United States. Let them guide you through the woods at superior-hardwoods.com. Now, get ready for more fascinating topics and the most interesting people you will ever find in Montana's great outdoors. We offer new podcasts most every Saturday. You can get a link to these podcasts by going to our website, montanooutdoor.com, or by going to our Facebook page, or just send an email to downrigger@montanooutdoor.com and say send a link to my email. It's that simple. Now let's head out with your host, Downrigger Dale, and see what's going on in Montana's great outdoors.
Thank you very much, Manny. Welcome into the Montana Outdoor Podcast studio. So glad you chose to join us today to explore more of Montana's great outdoors. I want to give a special welcome to our men and women of the United States Armed Forces. We love to see that you join us here, and we hope we bring a little bit of home back to you while you're out defending all of us around the world. Thank you and all of our wonderful veterans for your service to our great country. To everyone listening here, I have a favor to ask of you. When you get a chance, please share this podcast to your social media and with your family and friends. It helps us out a lot. Now, do you remember about this time last year, we had Kit and Trevor Johnson on the podcast talking about the great big Kokanee salmon that they had been catching on Holter Reservoir. That was an awesome podcast, as so many of you wanted to learn how they were finding and catching those great big beautiful Kokanee salmon. So I thought we'd run that podcast again for those of you that didn't get a chance to hear it, and for those of you who would like to get a refresher course on how to find and catch those. Because after all, starting now and continuing through June is a perfect time to get out and fish for those. So let's get into it with my old buddy, the captain of the Montana Outdoor Radio Show, and Kit and Trevor Johnson. A while back, we did a podcast about Kokanee salmon being back in Holter. And man, we got a lot of response from that. A lot of people were very excited about it. But then I started getting people saying, well, wait a minute. Is that really true? And if so, how do we catch those things? And so we thought we'd get two experts on. And also, my good friend, the captain, is with me. I haven't had you on the podcast in a while, Captain. So welcome back to the Montana Outdoor Podcast.
I think that most people say, is that really true on every podcast you do? But it is a fact, folks, that these big Kokanee salmon are biting or going to be biting soon on Holter and Hauser.
Well, I thought we'd get a couple experts on here, and that's Trevor and Kit Johnson. And they are Kit's Tackle Outfitting, and one of their specialties is working those reservoirs in the Helena area, especially Hauser and Holter. So we wanted to have those guys come on and talk a bit about how we find these Kokanee and how we catch them. And also, I think one of the great ways, and you guys have heard me say this many times on the Montana Outdoor Podcast, if you don't know a lake or a reservoir or a river, a great way to get to know it is hire an outfitter, because there you're going to get expert advice. They're going to show you how to do it. And one thing, folks, it's okay. They don't mind teaching you and showing you how. So we'll give you some information, and I'm going to put a link in the podcast description so you guys will know how to get to hold of Trevor and Kit if you'd like to book them. And that's a great way to start on these two great reservoirs, and they can really show you what's going on out there. So Trevor Johnson, welcome to the podcast, and Kit Johnson, welcome. I'm glad you guys are here with us.
Good morning. Yeah, excited to be here. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, that's Trevor there. We've got Kit on as well. So guys, let's get started with, there was a time when both Holter and Hauser were really well known for catching these great Kokanee salmon. And then it just kind of went away. And then, go ahead, Trevor.
It did go away, Rigger, and it was just kind of a mystery, and everybody's got their assumptions, they're from a biology standpoint, all the way to being fished out, going over the dams. I don't think anybody really knows exactly what happens, but I thought a real cool way to start this maybe would be, Father Kit was so passionate about these salmon back when they were in Hauser and Holter. He spent so much time with it, kind of perfecting the craft, and just kind of became a master at it back then. And obviously this is way before the outfitting days, and I was just a little boy, but I had vivid memories of my grandpa Poppy and my Uncle Herb out there, and they had their shirts off and they were getting tan and laughing. And I remember, blocks of ice and coolers and lots of chrome bullets going in the coolers, Kokanee after Kokanee. And it was just, I look at pictures and I remember it more because of the picture, because I was so young. And, it was always something that I just yearned for and always heard so much about it. So I thought I'd let Dad just talk about that for just a quick second. And then how cool it is that now this opportunity has arisen for me to be able to go out and chase these fish.
Yeah, give us a little background and history there, Kit.
Back in the early 90s, and Kokanee here was kind of a mystery fish when it started. And so us avid fishermen went out and explored it and figured out the best ways to catch them. And I had read all sorts of stories about the Great Lakes and downrigging, controlled depth fishing. And I was the first one to put downriggers to Kokanee on Hauser Reservoir. And it was so efficient. We just had a blast. We were fishing shallow water. A few tricks that I have back from the day is if you ran an 8-pound ball, you would scare the fish. So I molded my own 2-pound ocean weights, and it didn't have an effect on the fish. It didn't bother them as much. And downrigger, I know when you downrig fish,
yeah,
you can fish close to the ball.
Sure.
And you have a very precise depth control device to put yourself right above fish. And so I was fishing like 25, 30 feet behind the ball with a flasher, rubber snubber. And then my favorite lure of time back then was a number 1 needlefish. The best one on Hauser was the clown. And fishing that close to fish, you could circle on a pot of fish where the longliners would have to go through them, go down 300 yards, turn around and come back through. And we were just so much more efficient with the downriggers. And I learned several things about Kokanee. They're a very directional fish. They would eat one way, but not the other way. And so once you figured that out, you just stayed on them, trolled through them the way they'd eat, come around fast, and then come back through them. And very few people figured that out. But it was a tremendous fishery, and a tremendous fishery for kids. Trevor had so much fun. They're so acrobatic. They're jumping in the boat. They're jumping over the boat. And you would hook 10 or 15 fish an hour. So, I mean, it was just, wow. For a kid fish, it was fantastic. And they were big. They were all 2.5 to 3 pound fish. I mean, it was a wonderful fishery. And then, like Trevor said, they just mysteriously went away. And it was about the same time whirling disease. But I don't think that attributed to it. We just don't know. But when you have a fish that's a 4-year fish, they're fairly fragile.
Yeah.
I mean, if you lose a year class, you've lost a year class. And so they are putting some in Holter every year now. And the Hauser has a residual from that old fishery. It's kind of a secret. There's not a lot of people doing it, but it's a pretty prolific fishery right now. And Holter has giant fish in it. I mean, Trevor was targeting very large fish last year, and I think the one he caught, the biggest, was like 6 pound, 12 ounce, and the biologist here said that very well could have been the largest kokanee caught in the United States. And it's sweet for me to see Trevor go out there because his son's in love with it. It just gives me fond memories of having Trevor out there as a little boy, and now he's repeating that process with his son.
Well, I got a few questions here, Kit. One is, doing a 2 pound ball, that's really lightweight. is there any kind of trick to that? Do you have a large swing back with something like that, or?
Yeah, but you're trolling really slow. I mean, most of the kokanee trolling is less than 1.5 miles per hour. And so you have a little bit, but with modern electronics, you can actually see where your ball's at in the water. And so, I mean, there is a little blowback, but not a tremendous amount. I mean, it's not like you're going 5 miles an hour, and it's not like you're fishing 600 feet. You know, on Hauser back in the day, it was all 30 to 40 foot stuff. So you might blow up a couple of feet, just not a lot. And I'm using, I downgraded everything for kokanee. Like I said, I had studied the Great Lakes intensely and was in love with all these different fishing methods. And like for the big salmon, the anadromous ocean fish, they're using 10, 12-inch flashers. I used Great Lakes flutter spoons as my flasher, just a little, you can fold end to end. And now a lot of the kokanee manufacturers are making a small dodger because it warrants it. The fish are just smaller, and so you don't have a lot of weight back there. I would go to dodger. I'd put a rubber snubber on because they are a soft-mouthed fish, and it gives you just a little cushion between fish. And the longer the lead you have, the less action your lure has. So on the days where they were a little less aggressive, you would lengthen your lead from dodger to lure. And on days where they're really aggressive, you would shorten that lead. And Trevor figured out last fall, when you get into August, when those fish are spawning, you fished a really short lead, and it just triggered them to strike. Trevor really had them pegged last fall. He can tell you about it.
Kit, I got a couple of questions. This is the captain. I used to fish Hauser a lot back in the 90s. And, you know, there used to be boat after boat after boat fishing for these kokanee. And you could see all the fish in Hauser on your fish finder, but nothing was biting. And all of a sudden, one net would go up. Then, there's another net over there. And then, we got one on. Is that the same way that one of the issues I think you might have when you're fishing Holter or Hauser right now, because there's so many trout in there? How do you differentiate what's a trout and what's a kokanee salmon? And do you specifically need to target those kokanee salmon? And how do you do that without, messing with the trout?
They kind of stratify in different layers, and the kokanee are a little bit tighter schooling fish. The trout will be loosely laden in the water, and the kokanee are a tighter group. So we're making a calculated guess that this pot of fish is kokanee. Generally, the kokanee are a little deeper than the trout.
That's a great question, Captain. And like Dad said, sometimes it's inevitable. We're coming up to the time of year here, May and June, where the trout and the kokanee are a lot of times going to be sharing the same water column. We get that water up over 50 degrees. It's going to pull those fish back up into that top part of the water column. So you are going to be dealing with some rainbows, probably some small ones, probably some big ones. The way I look at it, it's not a kokanee, but hey, it's another awesome fish to fight. So you are going to be kind of targeting both as the summer progresses a little bit. And we'll talk about this. You get into July, when I had the most fun last year, targeting those real big fish. I was targeting those fish very deep, and I mean like over 80 feet deep. So I know a trout would never go that deep. So when I'm seeing a big mark or a single mark or a big double mark at 84 feet, I know those are big male, usually male kokanee. And so when you get down to those depths and your clicker starts screaming, you got yourself a big kokanee and not a rainbow. But when the both fish are sharing that top, 15 to 30 foot of the water column, inadvertently you're going to catch both. But to me, that's just one more fun fish that you get to reel in.
Yeah.
So Trevor, I got another question for you. When it comes to flashers, I remember putting, and I fished with downriggers, remember putting a flasher on my downrigger ball and then, putting the line out there, or I wouldn't use a flasher at all. I would just use like a triple T's or a Hildebrandt or something like that, and then tip it with the maggot, and I guess now we learned over in fishing the Lake Marion, when you're jigging, we use that shoe peg corn.
Yep.
And
shoe peg corn.
It's shoe peg or?
Shoe peg, yeah.
Okay.
Shoe peg corn, and why that's important. It's not absolutely necessary. I've even had to get the regular corn before. Shoe peg is really good for a couple reasons. First of all, it comes as a white corn, and not everybody does this, nor is it necessary. Some people like myself really like to take things to the next level, and then about 6 more levels past that. They make all kinds of brines and fire dyes and scents. The white shoe peg corn accepts dye very well. So say you use a bright orange dye, you can turn that corn like bright orange or bright pink, whereas the regular corn that's already kind of yellow, it really never dyes it. It keeps that yellow tint. And then the other awesome thing about the shoe peg is just the way it's shaped. It really slides on those little hooks and holds on those hooks nicer. The problem with regular corn is it's a big old kernel, and it's really hard to keep it on that hook. So shoe peg corn is definitely not a secret, but it is definitely important in the world of corn bait. And that's generally all we used out there for bait. Once in a while, I tried like a little, power wiggler or something like that, just a scented bait. But corn was definitely the best. I do use a fire brine dye. And I don't think this is a secret. It's not anymore if it was. I've tried about every damn color on the planet. And to catch those big kokanee out there in Holter and Hauser, orange and pink is just the color to use.
Okay, Kit, I got a question for you. Not everybody's got downriggers. So can you use leaded line? And if you're going to use leaded line, are you going to want to put a flasher? That's when I used to put that snubber on with these kokanee. And I think you should explain to the folks a little bit why they probably need a snubber because of the mouth structure of the kokanee. And talk about a little bit about leaded line, even though maybe you don't fish with a leaded line.
Yeah, and I'm going to let Trevor explain, because you can do these fish without a downrigger, a controlled depth device, with free weights. And Trevor was a master at that last year. He was free weighting these fish. And so I'll let him explain that. There's multiple ways. If you don't want to invest in downriggers and don't want to mount them on your boat, the free weight is the way to go. We didn't use leaded line, but I'm going to let Trevor take that question. So.
Okay, yeah, I'll explain it real fast, guys. So this probably is going to be a big secret to people. But again, we are sharers. I get it. People are going to be upset. We're ruining their little honey hole. It's 2024. The way I look at it, there's no real secrets left. I think everybody just needs to come together as a whole. The fisheries get more popular. That will increase money for funding to help better these fisheries in the future. Like Dad said, this all started for me a couple of years ago. I have some buddies out on the Columbia River, and as you guys know, we used to fish walleye out there for 20 years. And he grew up as a salmon kid, and Rigger and Cap and Dad, he just kept telling me, "Oh man, you got to come down to Buoy 10. You got to come do the king salmon with us and the cohos." And what I mean by Buoy 10 is that's where the Columbia River meets the ocean. They call it Graveyard of the Pacific there. But long story short, it's pretty much the Super Bowl of all salmon fishing. Like the greatest, there's a period there at the end of August when all those hot fish are coming into the river from the ocean, and it's like bumper boats down there. And they finally talked me into doing it, and I'm like, oh God, we could be walleye fishing. We're going after a stupid salmon. And I'll tell you what, I went down there with them, and we did that. We did those big Chinooks and the cohos. And it gets in your blood. Like, it's crazy. And, 2 or 3 years ago, I had a buddy send me a picture from Holter. He's like, look what I just caught. I was just trolling a wedding ring for trout. And he sent me a picture of like a 4-pound kokanee. I'm like, wow. Thinking that's just one in a million, And about an hour later, he sends me another picture of the same looking fish. He's like, dude, I got another one. I'm like, all right. So either lightning struck this guy or like these fish are catchable. Right. And with modern electronics, it's big down there. You got everywhere from the dam all the way to the split rock has about the same amount of fish. But with modern electronics, you can see these fish. So anyways, what I'm getting at is I took my setup from Buoy 10 and brought it here thinking, why not try it? And so I'm using no downriggers on my boat. I have downriggers. I'm getting a system built to where I'm going to put them on there when I need them, if I need them. But what I've utilized is a dropper ball method, which is very familiar with guys on the river. That's how everybody fishes for salmon on a river. So what I'm doing basically is using a three-way, and off the bottom of that three-way, I'm using 4 and 6 ounce dropper balls. And then I'm going back about 2 feet to my flasher, my dodger. And then I'm going anywhere from when the fish are active, 3 to 5 inches on my leader from my dodger to my hoochie. Or when they're not that active, I'll go all the way to 24 inches back there. But what it does is you can drop that ball and it'll act like a downrigger. So you're going to get back behind the boat a little bit, but you'll learn a system of kind of like where the depths are. And I just spent so much time out there that I know if I'm at 112 feet out going 1.3 miles an hour, I'm at 91 feet. So it's really a neat system in that you can catch those fish without having to invest in downriggers if you don't have them. And it's very fun. I've got them set up on clicker reels, and you'll be going along telling a story or taking a sip of coffee, and you'll hear click, click, click. And everybody's like, whoa. Everybody starts looking around, and then, and I mean, it's just ripping dragging. Oh, it's fun. And then there's times where you'll mark them and you'll hear one click, and you'll look over and that rod will click again, and then you'll look over at the other rod clicks, and there's times we'll have 2 or 3 of those rods rip off at one time when you pull through a big school of them. And it is like solid adrenaline, just like my buddy said from the Columbia River. I'm sure I'm going to have a lot of people say, Trevor, you need to take that back. But as much as I was a walleye or die guy my whole life, kokanee and salmon in general, the precise methods it takes to catch those fish, it will get in your blood.
Yeah.
Last summer, I had people asking me how the walleye fishing was, and I'm like, I have no idea, man. Like, my walleye rods have been getting dust on them for 3 months, it is a very fun and rewarding fish to fish for, just the salmon in general, because it's not easy. They're not easy to catch. I mean, you'll get one here or there, but it does take a lot of precision and a lot of, certain things everywhere from the scent to doing little S curves. Dad mentioned a great point. They're the trickiest damn fish in that they will be directional. There will be days out there I'll be pulling one way down the lake and not touch one fish pulling through them. I'll turn around and go back the other way, and I'll have 3 takedowns on one pass. And like Dad said, you'll find that out. And then it's almost to the point where you just drive or you fish one direction, get to the end of that drift. I usually just reel stuff in, start the big motor, run back up and come back down because they're only feeding in that direction. So anyways, the dropper balls, 2 4 6-ounce weights. You can fish them on a 3-way, and they act basically just as downriggers. So, I mean, a guy could almost go out there and do it in a canoe. Pretty awesome.
Well, what I'm going to have you do, Trevor, is I'm going to have you take a picture of that setup, that 3-way, and send that to me, and then we'll post that on MontanaOutdoor.com before this podcast, and that way I'll put a link in the podcast description, and people will be able to go to that and take a look at what that looks like, because I think that'll really help people. And so you've got a couple methods here, gang. You've got using the downriggers, using we'll call it the Trevor method here, and that's going to give you some really good stuff, but we're going to get into it a little deeper, and that is, okay, how do we find these buggers? Because you got to know where to look to get this going. So we're going to talk about that after this quick break. So stay tuned right here on the Montana Outdoor Podcast. Have you ever thought of doing a DIY project for your home? I've known John, Corey, and the rest of the gang at Superior Hardwoods in Missoula, Montana for a very long time. They've always been there for me, and I know they'll be there for you too. A true partner to help complete your DIY home improvements. Heck, they have been doing that since 1977. Whether you're dreaming of a charming accent wall or a complete floor makeover, they have it covered. There is no better feeling than the satisfaction of adding a touch of history to your home with their unique reclaimed woods. Now, I'm not just talking about lumber here. I'm talking about a story waiting to be told. My friends at Superior Hardwoods of Montana proudly stock over 11 acres of stunning reclaimed wood. perfect for turning your house into a home that is as unique as, well, you are. And don't worry, if you're just starting out with your first DIY project, the pre-finished flooring, pre-finished paneling, and trim options at Superior Hardwoods make it easier than ever to tackle any project like you've been doing it for years. So what do you say, gang? Why not dive into your next DIY adventure with confidence and let the decades of experience that they have at Superior Hardwoods take you through every step? Need a little inspiration? Well, visit them online at superior-hardwoods.com. Now, that's a great place to start out by browsing their website, again, at superior-hardwoods.com. That's superior-hardwoods.com. Not only will they help guide you through your home makeover with all their amazing ideas and their over 100,000 square feet of the most incredible wood flooring, paneling, and other wood products, they'll actually guide you through the woods. Now, what do I mean by that? I'll give you an example. First time I went to their showroom just south of Missoula on Highway 93 South, I was blown away by the unbelievable selection of different types of wood from not just Montana, but from all over the world. Best of all, I sat down with them, told them a bit about what I was thinking of doing, and the next thing I knew, I was hearing incredible ideas and learning about the perfect wood for what I wanted to do. That is what I mean by letting them guide you through the woods at Superior Hardwoods of Montana. Go see them. And we are back here on the Montana Outdoor Podcast. Trevor and Kit Johnson are with us. The guys have got they've got it dialed in here, and this is exciting because both Hauser and Holter near Helena, you're going to find a fishery that, for whatever reason, disappeared and now has come back. But as Trevor mentioned in the podcast earlier, they're a little tricky. You got to learn how to do this, and once you do, you're going to have a blast. So let's start with Hauser. Give us an idea, guys, whoever wants to go first here, just jump in there as far as how do you find these? What are we looking for as far as structure on the bottom? What are we looking for on our sonar, things like that, so we can find these buggers?
It's generally not a secret where the Kokanee are, because people have figured it out, and there'll be several boats there. And we go back to the old in-fisherman days when they had this formula, and it's really basic, really simple. It's presentation plus location equals success. And so you can be correctly presenting in the wrong location and you won't have success. And you can have the right location and the wrong presentation and you won't have success. But you put those two together and you will have success. And those fish do move in these reservoirs, but generally you can tell just by the way the boats are grouped together. Generally, when the Kokanee are in an area, there's a lot of boats there targeting them. And so that's a big key. They do move, so it's hard to say.
That's a great.
Go ahead,
That's
Trevor.
a great way. Yep, that's a great way to know what's going on these lakes. And generally, what you'll want to do is a good starting place. Say you went out there on a Wednesday or something, and there is no other boats fishing for Kokanee, so you're kind of like, holy cow, where do I start? Generally, Kokanee are cold water fish. They will utilize the deepest parts of the lakes. So generally, the deepest part of the lake is going to be by the dam or somewhere in that last few miles of the reservoir. So as far as Hauser goes, anywhere from the dam all the way up past Black Sandy there usually always holds fish. You just got to find them. And
the Dana Point area on Hauser, the Dana Point area on Hauser always held a lot of fish. And you got to know a little bit about the fish. They're a zooplankton feeder, so they'll rise in water to eat zooplankton, and then when they're done feeding, they'll drop to bottom. And they're actually hard to even see on a graph when they go clear to the bottom.
Hey, Kit,
but when they're up,
what was the name of that point?
It's called Dana Point, and it's just this big peninsula that comes down and separates Main Lake Hauser from the causeway arm of Hauser. It's called Dana Point.
Okay.
It's right at the Black Sandy area there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So you can ramp in at Hauser, and you can basically put your boat in there at Black Sandy or White Sandy. And just a tip, there's days that we don't even start the big motor. You can put in there at Black Sandy and basically fire up your bow mount and your kicker and go from there. So just so you guys know, that's a pretty good little area. And then same with Holter. Hauser's a little easier, only being a 7 mile long impoundment. Holter being almost 30 miles long is a little more tricky. I'm sure there's lots of other places in Holter proper that have the fish, but again, Kokanee being the zooplankton eater and liking the deeper, colder areas of systems, they're generally in that bottom, 5 to 7 miles of the reservoir. So anywhere from the dam all the way up past the Log Gulch and Split Rock there, all the way up to what a lot of people call the airplane buoys. There's a big airplane buoy line that goes across the lake there by the oxbow with the cabins.
Uh-huh.
So there's a deep channel basically from that power line there and all the way down to Split Rock, and then you've got that deep channel basically from Log Gulch area all the way to the dam. So there's quite a bit of area there. But what I normally do is before I start fishing, all this kind of motor around. Electronics are of paramount importance for catching these fish. Can you go out there without them and catch fish? Absolutely, but you're just kind of hoping and praying, right?
Mm-hmm.
I will drive around at 2-3 miles an hour for a while till I mark a few fish, and then I'll kind of feel like they're in that area, and that's when I'll drop down and start fishing. The other really fun thing about these fish is even with the dropper ball method, downriggers are more precise. The dropper ball method's not quite as precise, but it's really a neat system in that. So say I've got 4 rods out and I'm fishing, 82, 86, 95, and 110 feet. And I'm going by and all of a sudden there's 2 big arcs show up at 61 feet. Well, you're right on top of those fish with your electronics, and your presentation is still back behind the boat. I can catch almost every one of those fish if you take the effort and time to do it. You run up and put all your rods at that depth. And generally, or if there's a little school of them there, I was talking earlier where sometimes you'll have 2 or 3 rods, all 4 rods blow up at one time. If you take the time to run up and change all those rods and get them right to where those fish are coming through, more times than not, it'll pay off for you. So it's not really just a sit back and drink a beer type of fishing. It sure can be, but there's a lot of work involved as far as fine tuning goes throughout the day to be successful on these fish.
Okay, besides flashers, Trevor and Kit, I'll address this as well with you. What do you use for, I noticed in a Facebook post that you made, Trevor, you had the Brad's Bait one of them, and it was looked like a Wonder Bread color. And then you had some other lures of Wonder Bread color. Tell us what kind of lures do you use and what colors work the best for you?
Absolutely. And great questions, Cap. As far as lures go, really, you can take it as far as you want or as basic as you want. For about a 10-day period last year, my best presentation out there was honestly just a little spin and glow, right? Really popular in the walleye world, salmon world. It's just a tiny little float with kind of like 2 little wings on it. You can buy them at any sporting goods store. I basically used a double snelled hook, and kind of the reasoning why the double hook is so important in the world of kokanee fishing is because, like we mentioned before, the rubber stubber, I use 10-pound monofilament on my rods just because those fish have such soft mouths. They come off really easy. But with that double hook, a lot of times you'll hook them with both hooks when they come in there to snap at that lure. So always a double hook and that little spin and glow with 4 beads and a couple pieces of corn for like 10 days was my best bait. And then, like you mentioned, that post, in that post, there is a thing called a Brad's Super Bait. I'm pretty sure everybody's familiar with it. If not, pretty cool lure. It's just a little plastic, almost like a plug. And it's got a little area that opens, and it has a little scent patch in there. And you can apply whatever kind of scent you want. I basically just pack it with a little bit of tuna fish and garlic and then pop it shut and put the rubber band back over it. I did not catch as many fish on that bait, as others last year. I ran that one deep, but I caught some of the biggest, gnarliest male kokanee that probably exist in the world on that super bait. So
Wow.
I think it really annoyed some of those big boars, bucks down there, you know.
Mhm.
But yeah, pretty simple. You don't need to overthink it. Just little spinners work really well. Like I said, little spinning glows.
Squids are really popular. You know, we tie our own little tube baits with our glass minnow material that work really well. And it's just on a tube, so it slides over your line and you bead before hook. And they're small, though. Most of the stuff we're using and most of the squidders are smaller than 2-inch. You know, so it's a pretty small bait. And again, I want to go back and touch on the rubber snubber because Cap asked that question. We never got it answered. And what a rubber snubber is, it's a device that it's about 4 inches long, and it's got this stretchy rubber tube attached to a swivel on each end, and it has a leader between the two swivels. So if the rubber material would break, you're still attached to your fish. But it's just a cushion. It softens the impact between rod and fish, and so it gives you a little bit of a cushion to get that fish in. It's similar to fishing mono versus braid. Braid is very direct and has no cushion. Mono just gives you cushion. But the rubber snubber is a great little device for kokanee. It will catch you a lot of fish.
You know, they say size matters. Let's talk about size. You talk about 2-pound downrigger balls. Are you telling me, Kit, that I couldn't go out there with a 10-pound downrigger ball and have success with that? Or do you think if I just let more line out behind that downrigger ball, it would accomplish what you're doing with 2 pounds?
No, I think you would. You'd have success, but not as much.
Okay.
And when I'm fishing less than 80 feet or less than 100 feet, I have electric downriggers, but I'm using manual. And in a day's time, if the fish are really active and you crank that 8 to 10-pound ball up 200 times, and I crank a 2-pound ball up 200 times, I'm going to be way less tired than you are.
Yeah.
And it's just more efficient. It's just, it creates less of a void in the water. I fished those fish back in the day with Trevor when he was a little guy on Hauser. You learned so many tricks, and there are tough days on kokanee where everything you tried, it didn't work. And one of the tricks I would use is I would troll through them, and they wouldn't eat. 2 or 3 times I would do that, try every direction. The next time I would come through them, I'm running 4 lines off downriggers, and I'd get over a pot of fish, and I'm really close behind the boat, 25 to 30 feet behind the balls. I'd get my lures over the pot of fish, and I'd cut the motor, and I'd just let everything flutter through those fish for about 2 seconds. Then I'd fire the motor up and go. And like Trevor has said a couple of times today, you'd have fish on every rod.
Wow.
They're just in a less positive mood. They're in it just that softer presentation triggered them to eat. When you start the motor, every rod is hooked up. But there was a million little tricks like that.
Okay, let's go from the downrigger ball. Let's go to the flasher. Can I use an 8-inch flasher? I'm assuming an 11-inch flasher is out of the question, or a 4-inch.
You could use whatever, but I gear small. I only use 8-pound tests, and so it's like I said, a lot of times I'm using Great Lakes flutter spoons that are only like 4 inches long.
Okay,
and it's just a little flash, and up to, man, I think the smallest little flashers and dodgers are like 4 to 5 inch. I like just fairly small stuff.
Okay, and what about the Brad's super bait? There's 3 different sizes of that. There's the big one. There's they call a junior Brad's bait, and then there's a smaller one. Do you guys use the smaller one there, Trevor?
Yeah, Cap. It's actually called. I think it's newer as of last year. It's actually called the Brad's Kokanee cut plug. So
Okay.
It's pretty hard to mess that up. But again, the sky is the limit. I kind of agree with Dad. I was fishing very finesse out there. I do know some other people that were having success that were using like Columbia River type 14-inch, giant flashers, 2.5-inch hoochies. I mean, we're talking, Chinook king salmon stuff, and they were catching fish too. I just didn't go down that road. I kind of matched the hatch more. But one other quick tip on that, Dad mentioned that slowing the boat down and force feeding those fish is kind of what I call it. that you get the same thing in S curves. So if you see me out there, I'm going to look like I've been drinking because my boat is continuously going to be going in S curves. And any kind of troller knows that, when you make that turn, your outside rod's going to burn and your inside rod's going to go a lot slower. And then when you start into the other way, your other outside rods are going to start burning, and these ones are going to slow. So it really drives those fish nuts at times. Like Dad said, I have a troll. I troll on my boat. I go into hunt mode, and sometimes you don't have to, but when these fish become very tricky, especially later in the summer, I'll go all the way up to 2 miles an hour for like 20 seconds, and then I'll shut it back down to like 0.8, and those things will just flutter, and that's kind of like force feeding them. And just like Dad said, I can't tell you how many times you'll get fish hooked up doing that kind of stuff. So you just got to think outside the box a little bit. But incredible fishery. We're coming onto it right now. It's just now starting. Fishing is very slow, but they're starting to come to life, and it's just going to get better and better. Here by mid to the end of May, it's going to go what I would say is on fire. If you spend enough time out there and get them dialed in, you're going to be getting a lot of takedowns. Okay. And then as you progress through June and into July and August, it slows down a little bit again. Fish go a little bit deeper, but still very catchable. And there's just some tremendous sized fish out there in the world of kokanee.
Hauser still holds the state record for kokanee salmon. Rigger says we got to take a break, but when we come back, I want you to address the size of hook that you use on some of your lures, and also when, and you touched on it briefly, when's the best time of the year to go fishing for these buggers out there in the old under the water at Hauser and Holter?
Yeah, we'll discover answers to those questions and more right after this. Here on the Montana Outdoor Podcast, we talk about doing fun stuff out here in Montana's great outdoors. Now, we don't bring up work, and we for sure don't talk about taxes. Well, that is until now. But hey, don't worry. I'm going to talk about those things in a good way. What do I mean by that? Well, my friends at Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer can help you put your tax refund into the perfect equipment that will get the job done way faster so you can get back out of here with us and do all the fun stuff in Montana's great outdoors. Now, how can that be? Well, just talk to the gang at Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer, and they'll show you their incredible line of new baseline equipment trailers and dump trailers. I'm here to tell you, those are things that will for sure help you get the job done faster than you likely have ever thought possible. Now, let me give you an example. Baseline dump trailers have the absolute best combination of quality and functionality that will flat make those trailers the backbone of all your projects. See, the baseline dump trailers at Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer feature a multifunctional gate with a holdback system and board brackets to give you extra hauling capacity and stability. And like I said, it's a dump trailer, so whether you're clearing debris, hauling gravel, or managing construction tasks, when you get to where you're going, you just turn it on, dump the load, and before you know it, you're heading to your favorite lake, river, or stream. And that's just one example of how my friends at Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer can help you increase your productivity and make your workday go a whole lot smoother and faster. So go see your baseline dealer. It's Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer. They have inventory in stock right now for purchase. So go see them today. That's Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer in Missoula, Montana at 5680 Expressway. Or just give them a call, 406-549-4243. Or you can go see their whole inventory online at rmtte.com. That's rmtte.com. Do it today because, hey, we miss you out here. It's time to come fishing. We are back here on the Montana Outdoor Podcast. Want to thank our great sponsors for making this podcast possible. Now, Captain, you had an interesting question. Well, a couple of them. So go ahead with those again.
Okay, the size of hook that you guys tie up your stuff with, what's the best size?
Cap, I go with smaller. Again, everything I'm doing out there is finesse. I can't say that it's better than something else. I just know I spent a lot of time out there last year, and this is not whatsoever in the slightest way a bragging sense. I fine tune stuff always, all day, every day. I spent 30 days out there probably doing it last year or pushing it. I just stuck with the stuff that worked. I use very small hooks. I'm using like number 6 Gamakatsus. So that is very small. Like a lot of the Kokanee stuff, if you go to Walmart or, Capital Sports here in Helena or Shields and Billings, if you pick up something for Kokanee, a lot of times they're coming with like a number 1 or a size 1/0, which is huge. You put a couple pieces of corn on there and it's like, you can't even see the corn because all you've got is this huge hook. But they say that helps you, hook the fish. When I first was using the bigger hooks, I got way less action as far as getting bites from the fish. It just looks a lot cleaner on the rig. The corn hides the hook. It just all worked great for me. So not saying it's the only way to go, but it worked really, really well last year. I would say size 4 and size 6 is all you need.
Probably,
and Captain, we keep stressing, you hear us keep stressing finesse. And I just want to go back to a point that when you were talking about the 10 and 12-inch Dodgers or flashers, keep in mind, these fish have a really soft mouth. And so the more weight you hang out in front of them, every time they turn or bolt one direction, it's jerking the other way from them. And so when you gear down and make things finesse, you have less drag against that fish when he's fighting, and you have a better chance of landing the fish. Same with hooks. The smaller diameter hook goes in and has less hook wear than a big hook. With a big hook, it's a big diameter hook. It goes in and it creates hook wear really fast. So again, you just can't stress enough the finesse. And I wanted to touch one thing on serpentining, because the serpentining is so important no matter what trolling you're doing. And if you're searching for the correct speed, Trevor touched on it, is that when you make a left-hand turn, that inside rod slows way down and the outside one speeds up. You go the other way, it's just the opposite. If you do that 3 or 4 times and the inside rod gets bit every time, it tells you right away you're going too fast. You got to slow down. And so it's a really good way to key in on the correct speed to troll these fish. There's all sorts of little secrets like that are so important. And if you're perceptive to everything that's going on, it adds to that success. Again, that simple formula is location plus presentation equals success. And the finer you refine that, the more success you have.
Guys, this is just bringing back so many great memories for me. My mom actually taught me how to catch kokanee salmon. That was back when they were just thick in Flathead Lake. And she taught me about the rubber snubber deal. And the way she demonstrated that is she said, okay, walk by me and just put one finger out and I'm going to grab it. So I walk by her and she grabs that. And of course, it just stops me right away and about dislocates my finger. And she said, now let's take this rubber band and I'm going to grab it, put that around your finger. And it stretched for a while and stopped me real slow. And so she was demonstrating that kind of stuff. But one of the things that she was really into is she was very old school using the cowbells and that. Is cowbell something that would work?
I really think that it would, Rigger. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Any of the trolls would work.
It's a lot more fine-tuned using just one small little flasher. But, I think when they're active, there's something to be said about that. If you're using cowbells, you've got 5 or 6 of those bells flying around, and it just creates more of a disturbance and more action down there. Like there's a bunch of little kokanee shooting around feeding. So there's times that might work even better.
Well, also
I found that.
Go ahead, Kit.
Yeah, no, I found that before. Generally, using the dropper ball method when the fishing is hot out there, it sounds crazy, but a lot of times I'll only use 2 rods, because if you try to use any more than 2 rods, it just turns into instant chaos. It can be a very fun chaos. rarely rewarding, but very fun. Sometimes you'll have two fish blow up at the same time, and if they're really hot, they'll burn to the surface, and these big kokanee are flying. They're just like cohos in the ocean. I mean, they'll burn across the top of the water 100 miles an hour. It's absolute rush. But if you have 4 rods out and those fish are like that, they're going to burn all 4 rods together, and by the end of it, you'll be lucky to get anything in the boat besides a 2-pound tangle and 30 minutes of disaster. So I do recommend when the fishing is red hot, you don't need 4 rods. When the fishing slows down into June, July, August, and I wouldn't say it slows down. It's still very good, but it's to the point where you can fish 4 rods. And again, it takes a little bit of maintenance and precision, but I'm using anywhere from a 2 to 4 ounce ball in the back, the dropper ball method, not downriggers, just straight 10-pound mono with a dropper ball, a 2 or 4 ounce ball in the back, and then up front, I'm using a big 6 ounce cannonball. And that keeps me not quite vertical, but pretty damn close, just because, again, kokanee, we're not going 3 miles an hour. We're not fishing for those rainbows. I mean, there's a lot of times I'm only going 1 mile an hour to get these fish to bite. So
I got a question.
Yep.
I got a question for Downrigger. Did your mom tell you to be quiet in the boat?
Did she tell me to be quiet in the boat? Yeah, she described my behavior in the boat as similar to a fart in a skillet.
Nice. fried with butter.
So, guys, teeny troller is another attractor that you might consider using if you can find them. Some of the other things I wrote down here with lures, I got the triple teaser, I got the Hildebrandt, midge wobbler, wedding ring. The size of a hook on a wedding ring is probably about the size that you're targeting, I think, Trevor.
Yep. They sure are. Yep.
What's that?
Yeah, I'd say you're just, yes, they are. They're like a number 4, number 6. And I'm being completely honest. You come take a trip with us, you'll see this. A wedding ring is really all you need. That would work just fine.
Perfect.
I just like to fine tune it a little bit more, but if you're kind of simplistic, like I said, you can stop by your local sporting goods store, pick up a couple wedding rings, and you're sailing. You're off to the races. If you want to have a little more fun with it, like myself, I like to build my own leaders. It's actually really fun. My daughter's 9 years old. She loves beads and basically crafting. So we're sticking pink, purple, blue, all these cool different beads, and then we're picking whatever kind of little spinner goes on there. You can use anything from like I said, a wedding ring spinner to just about anything that goes on there. Spinning glows are great.
Smile blades, spinning glows.
Well, I'm blanking out right now. What? I'm not a troller for walleye. What are the little things that everybody uses for walleye?
Yeah, the smile blades.
Yeah,
Smileys.
Smile blades would work fine. Any inline turbo in front of it, it's just to create noise. A couple of things I want to touch on that are really important that we've kind of skipped over is when you're trolling for kokanee, no matter if you're free weighting or down rigging, you want to be above the fish. Those fish will rarely go down to eat. You want it to be just above them. Fish have trouble seeing down, and so they can only see up. And so they'll travel up to eat, sometimes as much as 10 or 15 feet, but they will rarely go down. And kind of what Trevor was saying when he was fishing 4 rods, kind of what's cool about that is you can vary the depths on them, and again, try and key in on the depth the active fish are. But you always want to be above your fish. And another one thing I want to touch on back in the day, and Trevor will remember this because my boat always smelled like licorice, but I was a huge fan of anise oil and anise oil. And I'd actually, kokanee have a really good sense of smell. And so, I mean, if you have adverse pheromones on your hands or gasoline or diesel fuel or something on your hands, it will affect the kokanee bite. I would always dip my lure in a little tub of anise oil before I deployed it with the downrigger.
Oh.
In the sense now, everything that was in the 90s, and now the kokanee world is a different world. Back in the 90s, we were very limited to like the flashers and dodgers and lures available. Now the sky's the limit. You Google it and it's, there's all this cool stuff. And they have refined the scents and baits as finely as they can. Trevor is really in, like he said, dyeing his product and using different scents in there. And I saw the other day he got a little tub of ground up krill that he's going to mix in with it. I mean, so they've really refined everything in the last 25 years. And it's very cool, but I'm still an anise oil person. It masks the human odor, and it's very pleasant to fish.
Mm-hmm.
You guys go ahead.
Yeah, if you're not familiar with the anise oil, I've always called it anus oil.
Yeah.
But it's however you would like to pronounce it.
Yeah.
But it's a black licorice smell.
It is.
It's like, who the hell figured out that a fish would like to smell a black licorice?
Yeah.
Right. But
it's just, it's non-offensive to them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Kokanee do. And like Dad says, I think it helps mask other scents. And I also think, as this goes with anything, you guys, confidence is everything. If you don't have confidence out there, you're not going to catch fish, or you're not going to continually succeed and catch fish. So that goes from everything from, God, did I have something on my hand that got on that bait? Now they're not going to bite. Am I going fast enough? This is actually super comical. I had that post on there the other day, and I had a few people, because people are curious, and they've tried it and not had success. So they're asking, what is your favorite scent? And on that post, I told them, I said, well, generally it's really hot. It's midsummer when you're fishing kokanee, right? So you're sweating pretty good. I said the best scent is to just run your hand through your butt crack and put like put a butt wipe on your lure there. And I had people private messaging me asking me if I was serious. So you never know. You never know what the secret scent is. I'm going to have guys out there with butt wipe on their hoochie.
You know what my mom used to do, because she always said, when we get everything all set to go here, we got to get the hooks and the lures back to generic scent. And so she always made several tuna fish sandwiches, and she would eat a tuna fish sandwich, and then she would spit on the lures and stuff. And that's what she would do. And I always thought, wow, now that's an odd thing, but she swore by it, and I mean, she caught a lot of fish. So
another one back in the day.
It makes a lot of difference. Again, it's confidence. The other day was really sunny. I was sunscreening up my son. I had a takedown. I had missed the fish, so I had to reel that rod in. I hadn't washed my hands, and I'm like, And I'm like, towards the end of the day, screw it. I rebaited with corn with sunscreen on my hands. We didn't go probably 45 seconds, and that rod went off, and we caught a 19-inch kokanee. Does sunscreen help? It just so. I mean, some of this stuff is nobody knows for sure. Like, they didn't stick black licorice down there and be like, they love that, right?
Yeah.
I just think whatever you're doing with scents or not doing with scents, have the most confidence. But like Dad said, I think the best thing to do is keep your hands as clean as possible. I know a lot of the Columbia River guys or Great Lakes guys are just, when we're talking big time salmon, they will carry a non-scented bar of soap, and they'll wash their hands 200 times a day, or they'll keep switching gloves so there's no scent. I'm not that extreme. But as far as scent goes, my favorite, I'll tell you a little bit about it. I like the shoe peg corn. I use the fire dye. I use like a red, a pink, or an orange. Those are by far the best colors on the upper Missouri River system here for these big kokanee or the trout mixed in. And in with that corn, like Rigger said, I will mix a pack of tuna fish. I will put 2 spoonfuls of garlic. And then I will also add some more of my own secret scents, like some krill. I've got a couple other little special scents I put in there. But this stuff will be bright pink by the end of it. My sweet dog, Dixie, she was 12. I lost her about a month ago. Heartbreaking, but we'll never forget. It's one of the best stories at her old age. We were out last summer, and we took Dixie kokanee fishing. And I have my tuna mixture up there, right?
Yeah.
And it was fluorescent purple. And all of a sudden I hear my son go, Dixie, get out of there. And I look up there, and Dixie's whole face is plummeted eating the kokanee bait. And Dixie was a bright white dog, solid white.
No.
So for 6 months, her whole muzzle was fluorescent purple pink. It was absolutely hilarious. But I mean, the shit works. I mean, it's It's good stuff. It's got a good scent to it. So, we put the corn on that's scented. And then on top of that, I like to, even a big secret that works well for me, going back up either 6 inches or 24 inches to your dodger, depending on how active those fish are. Again, shorter leader from your flasher to your presentation when the fish are active. When they're not active, you want to go longer because it's not going to sway as hard. It's going to drag more dead and get those less active fish to bite. But what we would do for scent, obviously I would put the bait on whatever my presentation is, and then I would go up, like I said, either the 6 inches or 2 feet to the flasher, and I will smear some anise oil or a different kind of scent, krill, bloody tuna, there's different stuff. I'll find out what's working for the day or that week, and I'll put a little bit of that on my flasher and kind of rub it in with my finger, and it will stay on that flasher pretty well. So then what's happening is I've got that bait, that scent popping off that in the water column. They might come find that, then they see my presentation, bam, 6-pound kokanee. So, just certain things.
Another
like that.
old scent I want to talk about, and us old guys will remember it. On Hauser back in the day, you'd go out, and there's 200 boats around you, and you could smell WD-40 everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere. People were spraying. I never did that, but it's like everyone out there was spraying down their lure with WD-40. It was just, you could smell it in the air.
So I think we should.
Go ahead, Cap.
I was going to say, I think we should rename this podcast instead of the Kokanee catching podcast. We'll call it the Mom's Tale, the Wives' Tale, the Trevor's Tale, and the Kit's Tale.
Yeah, Rigger's already trying to figure out how he's going to edit out my butt swipe.
Well, I was just going to say, I wonder what's going to happen after everybody listens to this podcast. We're going to have so many people that have got hooks stuck in their butt crack.
I can just picture it now. There's a whole bunch of us.
Oh, funny.
Yeah.
People got their hands down their pants.
Yeah.
It was inevitable that this was going to happen, right?
Yeah, the emergency room at the hospital in Helen is going to be, what is with all these people with hooks in their butt crack? What's been happening? It's the Montana Outdoor Podcast.
What are you doing, Joe? Well, he told me anus oil. I
mean, you can't be sweaty butt crack on a hot day and anus oil. I mean, there's no point in taking a trip with us now. All the secrets are out.
So you guys, Capital Sports is a Montana Outdoor approved sporting goods store. They're a very good retailer for Kit's tackle. Do you have any Kokanee setups there that somebody can go buy?
Yeah, we're actually building them some. So the good thing is you still have time. We've got about a month to a month and a half before the Kokanee bite's going to get going strong. Not that you can't catch them right now. But again, yes, we're going to be building them some actual hoochies that we use ourselves, kind of stamped by us that, hey, this is what we do good on. They'll have those within a month. But as of right now, they have the full Kit's tackle selection, but they do have, I've kind of worked with Bart a little bit there, same with Dad. Bart is the fishing manager at Capital Sports. He's a wealth of knowledge, great guy.
Yeah.
He does have other stuff that's not Kit's tackle that we've told him people how to rig and stuff. So Bart's actually a great person just to go in and visit with because we showed him the rigs and how things work. So he can line you up with the lures. How far do you want to go from your ball to your flasher and stuff like that. So as of right now, they do not have any of our actual hand-built leaders, but they will within a month. But they definitely have everything you would need to go out and do it. And if you end up at, you're in a different town, you end up at a different sporting goods store, we recommend Capital. But if you just don't have time to come into Helena, again, as simple as a wedding ring works really well, or a double snelled hook, 4 yellow beads and a pink spin and glow. You don't have to overthink things. But again, small and finesse was definitely the best for us. And again, like I said, it was not at all in a bragging sense. I just, using that dropper ball method last year, I rarely got outfished out there. There was once or twice I saw boats catch as many or kick my ass. And they did have downriggers. But for the most part, I seem to outfish those downrigger guys. And I have a pretty close buddy. Well, you actually, he'd be happy to mention this. You guys did that podcast with him, but Adam Strainer.
Yeah.
And he actually feels that the downrigger ball and the vibration from the downrigger cable scares the fish. And I doubt that's true. Dad would probably attest that that's not true. There's times where a bigger ball might scare the fish, but it goes right back to that, like in the back of your mind. So I'm watching these guys with downriggers, and I'm like, oh, good, they're scaring the fish over my way, you know. So I've just used the dropper ball method and the butt wipe and the anus oil, and it's just been lights out there. But I think there is times that downriggers would be very important, but it's an awesome fishery. It's fun. Like I said, I'm a walleye or die guy, and I will throw the walleye rods in the back of the closet to go out and do this. It is just, it's addicting. And the fish, the other cool thing is the fish they're amazing. They're delicious. You cannot buy kokanee in the store. You know, it's a landlocked sockeye salmon. The oils they're so oily, and they have a very mild, delicious taste. But, you know, you can't go buy a fillet of wild kokanee. So it's like really rewarding in that sense too, that you get like this incredible meat. We've been putting them, you know, you guys smoking them and canning them and all that, but I mean, these things are monsters, you know. I mean, the ones so far that have been like, you know, 18, 19 inches, nice fish, 2.5 pounds, which in the world of kokanee is huge. But last year, you know, I was regularly catching 3 to 5 pounders. You know, we caught them all the way up to, you know, 7 pounds. So world-class stuff. Nobody really knows what's going to happen this year from a biological standpoint. It looks like those big fish will be back. But again, they're a 4-year fish usually. So nobody really knows. But the system's going to be full of those, you know, 17 to 19s again, and there'll be some big ones. So it's, in the world of kokanee, that's world-class.
Yeah.
I mean, there's really nowhere else in the world that kokanee are getting that big.
Well, we're going to be looking forward to also trying to buy some of that kitten Trevor Johnson anus oil, a little vial that Capital Sports probably smells. I'm sure you can get that in there in a couple of weeks.
Oh yeah.
Oh, Mark, I just want to give you a little trivia on Capital Sports. We have had a 50-year relationship with Capital Sporting Goods, and that's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really a cool, and like Trevor mentioned earlier, the beauty of that store is that they have a very stable base of people that work there and very knowledgeable. So you go in the fishing department and you get tremendous knowledge from Bart, and you know, the weapons department the same. Every department is just full of knowledge, and a 50-year relationship, you know, that hit me this year, and it was like, wow, that's incredible.
Well, nothing beats local knowledge, and that's what these two guys deliver for you too. And I want to stress this again. You guys are very humble, and you don't really brag on yourselves, but I'm going to do it. I highly recommend, if you really want to figure this out, and once you do, you're going to have so much fun with this, and you get the whole family out doing this, is get a hold of Kit and Trevor and have them take you out. And there you're going to get, there's nothing better than that hands-on knowledge. So in the podcast description, I'm going to have a link to their website and that, so you guys can get a hold of them and book a trip if you want. I would highly recommend that. And that's really going to put you way ahead of the game, because you're going to learn some great stuff to it. So, and
that's
of course,
a great point, Rigger. It really would. Like I said, it took me, I spent 1 million hours out there getting those things dialed in. And yes, is there still tough days? Absolutely. But when you've spent that much time and tried that hard and been that dedicated, it really, really helps that out a lot. And then, it's also a great opportunity for, say, someone that doesn't have a boat.
Right.
They get to go out with their family for a day or come out for a day and, catch some monster kokanee. Again, like I said, it is fun. It's very, very fun and rewarding.
Yeah.
It's really options for anybody. Yeah, it's awesome. We're excited.
It's a great thing to do if you have guests from out of town in, and you can book a trip and get everybody out there. So I highly recommend that. I want to thank you guys so much for all the time you've taken here with us. And this is exciting. Of course, the captain and I are going to join you guys out there, and then we'll do a little follow-up on this podcast with some recordings of us being out on the boat and having a little fun, and then some after the after the fishing trip knowledge from Kit and Trevor, and they can talk a little bit about that. So stay tuned to the Montana Outdoor Podcast on all that too. So
awesome. And one last quick thing I want to say just real fast is
sure,
people are welcomed to follow along. We have a great social media page. I know not everybody's into social media, and yes, I know the times have changed and social media is the devil and they've done this and that, but it is what it is now.
Sure.
You know, there's a great quote in the Disney movie I used to watch with my kids, and it has just stayed with me forever. And it slows down and it says, time changes everything. And it couldn't be more true. It just is what it is. Places are getting more busy. More people are moving to Montana. Instead of being so grumpy about it, I think you embrace it. You do your best to teach everybody to get along. Do what's best for the fishery. Like I said, then you get more funding. We make this a better fishery. It's just a win-win for all. But long story short, Kit's Tackle Outfitters on Facebook. We do a lot of posts on there. We'll be doing live feeds. We'll be doing live hookups on Big Kokanee. And you can kind of follow along and make sure we're not just BSing you. But my last quick question for you, Rigger, when you come out with this, are you going to bait the hook for me with the scent?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm going to have it all ready to go.
All right. Well, bring that tuna fish sandwich, man.
I will. Well, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun. And
it is.
And those of you that have comments or suggestions, you can always email us, and we'll get all that. That's all going to be in the podcast description, and that social media. I'll have a link to that. So you guys can go follow Kit and Trevor along. So thanks again, guys. We look forward to meeting you out on Hauser and Holter and having some fun with you.
Thank you, guys.
We look very forward to it too, Captain Rigger.
And there you have it, folks. Some great stuff, learning from Kit and Trevor Johnson. And this is going to be fun. And stay tuned to the Montana Outdoor Podcast, and we'll do some more of it. Until then, be good to each other. Be safe out there, and we'll see you next time here on the Montana Outdoor Podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Montana Outdoor Podcast. It has been brought to you in part by Superior Hardwoods of Montana, home of the largest selection of in-stock high-end wood products and flooring in the western United States. Let them guide you through the woods at superior-hardwoods.com. And by Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer in Missoula, home of Boss Snowplows, CM Truck Beds, and Diamond Sea Trailers. Just go to rmtte.com for more information. So what did you think of today's podcast? Send your questions and comments to Downrigger at montanooutdoor.com. We should be dropping a new podcast this next Saturday. Until then, we will see you soon out in Montana's great outdoors.